Hello everyone. Before today's topic, we have already discussed about the soil formation, then transportation of soil. So today we shall talk about the some other topic. Let us begin with the dipolar nature of water. Molecules, water molecules are dipolar. Why? How we can say it is dipolar? Since the hydrogen atoms are not symmetrically arranged around the oxygen atom. That also you can see by the figures. Or we can also say centers of positive and negative charges of water molecules do not coincide. Do not coincide. This means that a molecule of water is like a rod with positive and negative charges at opposite ends, or behaves like a rod, you can see, right? Dipoles are electrically attracted toward the surface of clay particles. Clay particles always have negative charges. Negative charges on the surface of clay particles attracts the positive charges or positive end of the water molecules, right? You can see the another topic. What do you mean by adsorbed water? That is also called a clay particle water relation. The water molecules are arranged in a different pattern in the immediate vicinity of the boundary between solid and water. Here, solid means what? Clay particles. You can say the the particle surface, net negative charge is there. Clay particles always have negative charge, and the water is surrounding the clay particles. More than one layer of water molecules stick on the surface with considerable force, and this attractive forces decreases with the increasing the distance of the water molecule from the surface. What does it mean? This is the surface of the clay particles. So what is going to happen? A number of layers of water molecules are attached or attracted on the surface of the clay particles, right? Due to the electrical forces. But as the distance increases, the concentration of the plus and minus charge, negative or positive charges, go on decreasing. The electrically attracted water that surround the clay particles. See, negative charge are there, positive charge are there. This positive charge is the nothing but H ion, right? So both are attached together. What it says that is known as diffuse double layer of water. Diffuse double layer of water. So this area or this layer, we can see double diffuse layer of water. The water located in the zone of influence is known as adsorbed layer. So you can see this zone is called as adsorbed water, right? And more layers of water molecules are attracted on the surface of the clay particles. This also we have to know. And this zone is called as zone of influence, where more attraction is there, a strong bonding is there. So within the zone of influence, the physical properties of water are very different from those of free or normal water at the same temperature. If you will go in this side, you will get the free water or normal water. Let us see further. Near the surface of the particle, the water has a property of a solid. You can see whatever the water particles are, I told you that along the surface of the clay particles, many layers of water molecules are there, and it is electrically operated with the high bonding. Okay, so what it says that the water which is nearby the surface of the clay particles behaves like a solid particle, we can say, behaves like a solid particles. At the middle of the layer, it is just like a viscous liquid. At the middle of the layer, that means in this zone, it is a viscous liquid. And beyond the zone of influence, that means in this area, it becomes normal water and free water. We can see here by this figure also, here the concentration is very high. That means you can see the negative charges and the positive charges more are highest at this point. But as the distance increases, the concentration also decreases. To drive up the adsorbed water, the clay particles must be heated to more than 200 degrees centigrade, which indicate that bond between the water molecules and the surface is greater than that between the normal water molecules. H and OH, and the bond between the normal water molecules will be greater than the bond between the normal water molecules will be the less than the water molecules, the bond between the water molecules and this in this surface, right? That's why that can also be interpreted in this way, indicates that the bond between the water molecules and the surface is greater compared to the normal water molecules. So this point is very important. So this water, we cannot, the water which is nearby the surface of the clay particles cannot be evaporated, right? You can see the 200 degrees centigrade temperature is required. Whereas normally in case of moisture content determination, we go for the 100 degrees centigrade. We heat the soil till 100 degrees centigrade or 100 to 10 degrees centigrade also. The adsorbed film of water on coarse particle is thin in comparison with the diameter of the particles. Normally, along the surface of the coarse particle, the thickness of the water molecule layer is less, right, compared to the diameter of the particles. But here you can see in the case of fine grained soil, this layer of adsorbed water is relatively much thicker. Even it can exceed the size of the grains. That means you can imagine along the periphery of the clay particles or fine grained soil, the layer of the water is available in such a way that diameter exceeds the diameter of the clay particle or the solid particles. The forces associated with the adsorbed layers, therefore, play an important part in determining the physical properties of very fine grained soil. See, very fine grained soil is clay soil, but have little effect on the coarse soil. So in clay particles, it has a very influence. The property is going to be influenced. High influence will be there in the clay particles. Now we shall talk about another topic, that is the interparticle forces. See, the particles are attached to each other with the suitable bonding. What I'm trying to say that, as we have already studied, in case of soil formation, the physical disintegration causes the formation of coarse grained soil. You can see the sand and gravel. Whereas in case of chemical decompositions, we have a study that the clay formation is going to take place, right? So here, how even in the one particle, even one soil particles, different layers are there, and those layers are attached with the bonding. Interparticle forces are broadly classified as gravitational forces or mass-derived forces, and surface bonding forces or surface-derived forces. In coarse-grained soil, mass-derived forces are predominant, and surface-derived are predominant in fine-grained soil. So this topic also we shall discuss in details at the time of talking about the soil structure, right? So you can see here, mass-derived forces acts in the coarse-grained soil and surface-derived forces in the fine-grained soils. And one thing I would like to tell you, we are going to talk about the interparticle forces in the clay particles, right? We are not going to talk about the gravels or the about the coarse grain soil, right? So you can see here in the clay, the soil, clay soil, these materials are there. You can see ammonium, hydrogen, potassium, iron, aluminum. So what it indicates? It indicates the decreasing order of shear strength of clay, or we can also say as a cation exchange capacity. Suppose in between the two particles, one particles have the calcium and another particles have the sodium. So what is going to have this calcium will be replaced, the sodium will be replaced by the calcium because it is having more capacity compared to the sodium. Now we shall see, as I told you, the surface forces on the clay particles are of two types, right? The attractive forces and the repulsive forces. And we are talking about the fine grain soil, how the fine grain soils are attached to each other. Even a single particle, in the beginning I told you, even a single clay particles have different layers which are attached to each other by a strong bonding. So attractive forces are also going to work in between the two particles, and repulsive forces also may be there. You can see here what are the various attractive forces which works in between the two particles. Van der Waals-London forces, hydrogen bonds, cation linkage, cation dipole linkage, water dipole linkage, and ionic bond. We can see here, in case of Van der Waals-London forces, it is called universally attractive forces which acts between the all adjacent soil particles and may be the only attractive forces effective in soil. In some soil, maybe only these forces will be effective. So what is going to happen in with the two particles? The positive charges and the negative charge, this is the water is also there. Water is also going to work as a major role, right? In attraction between the two particles, or in attachment or bonding, in case of bonding also. So you can see this is the orientation of how the plus charge or minus charge are going to attach to each other. Here also you can see the orientation is different, and here orientation is different, right? So the closer the particle spacing, the stronger is the Van der Waals forces, right? It depends upon orientation effect, but it may be only one effect in some soil. See, three types of effects I have shown. How the positive and negative charges of the two in between the two clay particles, the bonding is going to take place, right? In between the two particles, and what it says that in some soil only one type of orientation may be possible, or either this orientation or this orientation. So the three types of orientation have been shown here, right? How the particles are going to connect to each other also we can understand. If they are going to attach to each other, they are going to join to each other. Now the next bond we can see, hydrogen bond, is effective between oxygen and hydroxyl group within a particle, right? So hydrogen bond, suppose some particle having the oxygen and the hydroxyl groups, in between the hydrogen bonding is going to work. This bond is the strongest interparticle bond. A cation, the next point we can see, the cation linkage acts as a bridge between two adjacent particles. This is another bond. Cation linkage, two adjacent particles carrying negative charges. Suppose two particles, these particles have negative charges, these particles have negative charges, right? And here, suppose this plus charge may be coming from the calcium, this may be coming from the magnesium. So two positive charges are there. So this is connecting with this particle, and here this is connecting with these particles, and the particles are going to be the interparticle forces are going to work, right, in between the two particles. And we shall also study at the time of clay minerals, how the clay minerals are going to form. For example, kaolinite, ylite, and montmorillite. You can see the cation linkage is similar to the intersheet bonds of the ylite. So this about this we shall discuss it in details at the time of clay particles lecture. You can see this is called as dipole, cation dipole linkage. As I told you in the beginning, the water molecules acts as a dipole, plus minus, right? So it's possible for two particles to be linked with each other through ionic bond. So here you can see these particles have negative charges, these particles have negative charges. And this here, the heavy metals may be there, right? The iron, manganese, whatever it may be there. So how the connections are going to take place in between the soil particles. We are talking about the clay particles. So this is the particle have negative charge. These particles have negative charge. In between the dipole, water molecules are there. And here you can see some heavy metals are there. So how these particles are going to attach to each other, interparticle forces are going to work together, and a clay particles will be formed, right? Or we can say the bonding between the two particles. Even the one particles have the different layers, and in that layers the bonding may work. We can see the another points. Particles can be linked together through water dipole linkage. See, water dipole, as you know, the water acts as a dipole, and here the different the materials may be there. Here different materials may be there, and how the dipoles are going to have a linkage with the different material, different layers. This is different material, this different, and the here water is there. So how the connections are going to take place, how the interparticle forces are going to work together to form a soil, we can say. The linkage would be weak one, but could exist relatively at a large distance. Next point is the repulsive forces. There are two types of repulsive forces. Particles charge repulsive force. It is due to similar charges on particle. If two particles have the similar charges, it will not have attraction in between two, right? Repulsion forces are going to work together, right? And both the particles will be not connected. The particles will remain separately. You can see the another thing, cation repulsion. When two particles with exchangeable cations are brought close to each other, the cations tend to repel each other since they carry like charges. You can see here negative charges are there, positive charges are there. But in between, if plus charges are there, positive ions are there, positive charges are there. Here positive charges. So these particles will remain separately because the minus and plus will be attached together. It will be written separately, and this will remain separately. That means repulsive forces are going to work at this point. So this is all about your today topic. Tomorrow we shall go for the next topic. Thank you.